I know all these animal secrets. I can't tell him any. I can't tell him anything, because I've been sworn to sheep secrecy. Okike Maho, and welcome back to a wonderful review of Wonderful Precure. This episode immediately starts off where we left off. The girls are just dealing with the fact that Komugi is now a human, and I absolutely adore the way that they animate her. They did it the last episode too, where she just starts like kind of going off. I am impressed with how the staff really captures the essence of being a dog. It's perfect. And we get the introduction to Mei, which I love Iroha's reaction of being like, a talking animal. She is surprised every single time an animal talks, and I hope they keep that gimmick going past this episode, because it's going to be so funny. Mei is very interesting for our kind of like fairy slash knowledge bank character. I feel like we've had more human ones for a couple of the past seasons. I think we had like Mari-chan and Yo-Yo from Hiroguru Sky. I like that we're getting back to having kind of goofy, fairy-esque characters, and Mei has brought a lot of personality. I also believe that Mei is supposed to be a pun, because I think for like what we have ba in English, I believe the sound effect for sheep is like meh. So the entire time he is speaking, it is just nothing but like puns. Like da meh, which would be like don't. I love how these two are not paying attention to it. Like in most series, I feel like we take kind of like, we have the world to save, and there's like, I can't believe it. This time it's like, we're besties. I also love that Mei addresses Komugi as Komugi-sama, as in like, oh, like sacred Komugi, please save us. And she's like, I'm gonna make fun of you. Their relationship is giving me major like Sailor Moon and Luna vibes, where she's like, Sailor Moon, and Sailor Moon's like, I'll think about it. I'll think about helping out. I'll think about doing stuff. I can definitely see a very playful relationship coming forth here for lots of laughs and giggles. Also, we finally get a look at the Nico Garden in the show. On the website, I think they had like one shot that showcased what the Nico Garden was going to look like, but now we're getting a little bit more flavor of it, and we're going to see more of it in the next episode. Also, and once again, they did not shortchange us on goofy, silly faces. This episode is just chock-loaded with some goofy, silly face time. I also love that our villain is named by the Cures, instead of like there being the stereotypical name that we normally have. Komugi's just like, you guys growl a bunch when you're evil, so I just called you the Garu Garu. And Mei just goes along with it. We do the same thing with the Wonderful Pack. Mei's like, that thing! And Komugi's like, yeah, the Wonderful Pack. And he's like, Wonderful Pack, sold, sealed, you know, you make the rules, not me. Also, he does that thing that like Yankee type characters do with whatever that hair piece is that looks like a corn cob that comes off their head, and like they usually like have a comb and they'll style it, but Mei's got like a soft brush, and Mei is like the polar opposite of a Yankee character. I love it. Most Precure seasons typically have that stereotypical superhero bit where you're supposed to keep your secret identity. I've never really been fond of it, especially when you get shows like the first few seasons of Miraculous Ladybug, where you can't tell anybody and everybody's like, wow, you suck because you can't make your obligations, or we don't know where you disappear to. So I love that our girls are really fighting this here in a very non-serious way. Iroha is just like, well, I probably should ask my parents, and Mei's like, no! And then she's also like, well, at the very least, Satoru, and he's like, what did I just say? This is a secret. This is a secret. You, Iroha, are not a Cure. You're not even supposed to know that this is happening. I'm curious who is going to ultimately have it. I believe Satoru is going to eventually get added in on the secret, and then our additional Cures, obviously, are going to get in on the secret. I don't think, at this point, the parents are going to get added. I love how that plays out. Me crawling back in after something upsetting happened. Just like, yeah, let's go. Also, Mei just pulling out the trunk, so it's gonna have that bit where he just pulls stuff out of his fur all the time. He pulled the hairbrush, he pulled the trunk, I think he pulls something, like a handkerchief out later, and then just like rolls out and he's like, I'm just gonna let this trunk chill here, and Iroha picks it up like, hey now, what do we do with this? And they're just like, let's go home. This is adorable how Komugi is like, I always wanted to ring this, her being like the world's smallest dog on the planet. Like, you know, it'd be nice if I could ring the doorbell this time. Very cute. And then Iroha has that little conundrum of like, how in the world am I going to explain to my parents that I have a human dog thing now? Which, I mean, it makes sense to me that they're not going to do that, but I also think that means that we're likely not to have a lot of school in this series, potentially. Like, I know that Iroha is going to be in the same class as, Satoru, so there's going to be some element of school, but, like, I don't see Komugi, or potentially Yuki, going to school. I wonder how they're going to handle that. I wonder how they're going to balance that. Because I can just imagine they're going to be an episode dedicated to Komugi being in her human form, just like snooping around this campus. Once again, there's just me in this picture. I am the dog. I am Komugi, just like, I'm done. We've had a day. I'm out. Also conveniently solves our problems, we stand. Once again, we have these really nice flashback sequences. I also love how this very much for Iroha parallels a lot with what occurred for Komugi's first episode. Also, we get the backstory of them. We get to see how they met. We get to see an aggressive Komugi, which imagine if later down the line, like drama of the middle of the season or the end of the season, we have evil Komugi, like she turns into a garu, or like Yuki does. Imagine if they hit you with like sad dog hours that way. But luckily we get past the dream. I think this also does really good for setting up Iroha as a character. Like, I think there's so much decent setup and a little bit of that payoff towards the end of the episode, but we're gonna see it later down the line. They did such a good job setting up the fact that Iroha has a dream, and her relationship with Komugi is just one sort of like step in that overall dream that she has. Switching over, we now go to the place where they live, like the massive house that they live in, which, by the way, everybody's house seems to double as a store. Like, we are not going to be driving anywhere in this town. Everybody's going to be walking because everybody's house is a store. We find out that they are both a vet and a salon for animals. It also confirms to me that the dad, who I think we have his name not said in the show, but I think his name is out there somewhere. He, giving his male wife energy, is somebody who takes care of the shop, and Yoko, the mom, is the veterinarian, so she's the breadwinner of the family. I think is very cute. Let's go. I love Mayu going off about Yuki here. She's like, she's so cute when she's asleep, and she's cute when she's awake. And like, it's just me. This is just me ranting about my cat, right? And overall, this is just like nice setup that they bothered to include both Mayu and Satoru. We get like a very, very tiny glimpse of Yuki in this episode. She's not as present, but we really like make sure that the characters of the season are present in each of the episodes. I think the last few seasons have kind of staggered the character introductions, but we are giving like little nuggets for the entire group in each of these episodes. I hope they continue to do that. Even if like, with the focus being on Iroha and her becoming Friendy this episode. I like that at no point does having the presence of Mayu or Satoru feel like it takes away from that. We still, like, it still does such a good job at introducing her while also reminding us that there's other characters. We also learn that at Iroha's house/vet, there's a whole little dog area that they can run around in, which is very cute, but also makes sense. That house is massive. And we also, again, get a little bit of a peek into Mayu and her being like, oh, so now this is where she lives. Like, oh, friendship. I had to put this screenshot in here just because. Look at our little doofy babies. Look at our doofy little characters. This is the top tier moment of Iroha just trying to keep up with our two little goofballs. Also, just Daifuku still giving us absolutely nothing. We also confirmed, I don't know if I knew this last episode, but yeah, we have confirmed that Daifuku is a boyo. We also have confirmation that Daifuku does not have a heart on the back of his head, but if you do look at his ears when they're upturned, which I'll show in another shot, it almost looks like they could be combined to make a heart. We're gonna keep an eye on Daifuku. I do love that Satoru immediately rolls into, like, facts, being like, dogs run this fast, rabbits run this fast, humans can't run that fast. Like, he's like, don't worry guys, I'm gonna remind you that I am going to be the factoid character for the entire series. I do like that he is pretty relaxed around Iroha. Like, obviously, we got a bit of the crush vibe from the previous episode, and he does sort of trip up a little bit, but he is capable of holding a conversation, which I feel like is just a modern way of writing characters like this. Satoru and Iroha are childhood friends. And then we have probably one of the funniest sequences of this episode. Satoru is like, I'm about to, like, hit you with every fact under the sun, and she's like, oh my god, Satoru wants to know more about animals and stuff, and I know all these animal secrets. I can't tell him anything because I've been sworn to sheep secrecy. And there's just a lot of yapping. This whole sequence is just yap yap yap, yap from both of them. It's so funny. And then Satoru, like, you know, actually having some self-awareness is like, hey, it looks like there's information that you know, but you don't feel comfortable telling me. But I want you to know, I am here for you. Very sweet. It's like, he's such a cinnamon roll. We're serving with all of these gag faces. Oh, I love this. I don't think we're gonna have this problem for very long, but they did a good job with what is normally very, very frustrating. Once again, we see that the animals react. I do think, for a lot of people who have the theory that Daifuku might be evil, I do like that Daifuku reacts. Daifuku also has the, like, hey, some stuff is going down that's bad, so I'm holding out. I don't think Daifuku is gonna be evil, but, like, you know, if there's any way of Daifuku doing a good job at, like, being like, I'm not suspected, it's this. It's having this reaction that both of them are having here. And also you can, again, see that the ears almost make kind of like an upside-down heart if you put them together. And then we just have, like, the perfect mix of somebody who's so chill and someone who's so not. When we have Komugi talk, Satoru was like, what, did the dog just talk? And Iroha being like, bye. I also found our stock footage. So for what we don't have in the attack department, our stock footage seems to have gone to this little transformation where Komugi goes from her dog form to her human form, and very specifically with the pact. Like, I feel like other series, if they needed to change between forms, they just kind of, like, do it. I guess in Star Twinkle we had the rainbow perk that let Uni transform, but this is where our stock footage is right now, and it's like, I was like, I'm a little blown away at how nice this transformation is. Also, a small artistic bit is I love the texture they use for when the characters kind of, like, change forms. Although, like, all Precure usually has this in-between form-esque thing between them being normal and being cures. But usually it's just, like, a blinding white light with a little bit of a bloom effect, and then it goes pew, and they're, like, in the next form. I like that we've got this kind of pink thing with this sort of fractal noise that's very, like, black dominant with white peeking out. People who understand art masks might have any idea what I'm saying right here. But I really like this texture. And I like that they've kind of added more than just, like, making them kind of glow white and change. I also love that this setup right here for the way that Komugi feels motivation to do her cure thing is so perfect, because she does it the way a dog would. They keep it very dog mentality. She's doing it because it's what Iroha would want, the girl she loves. It's, I'm gonna do what Iroha wants, but also Iroha has instilled in me that caring for other animals and making sure they're not in pain is something that's something that she's brought to me, and I value that, and I will continue that dream. I love that, like, tiny bit. They didn't need to do anything before she became a cure, but, like, sitting here and deciding was based on what Iroha taught her and what Komugi experienced to become Iroha's pet in the first place. And we get that. We get the backstory again of, like, Komugi warmed up because of the love and care that Iroha had, and that's something that she has transferred into being Cure Wonderful. And I think it's even more interesting because Komugi's the main character. At the end of the day, Iroha is kind of our secondary main, but it's the values that Iroha gave to Komugi. We also get a little bit more. This is, like, the one frame I think really confirms that Yoko is the veterinarian, dad's male wife energy. And just we have this super cute scene of the family and coming together and seeing the growth, which we get a couple more shots from, and I love that. I feel like this was the perfect time to add the backstory of how they met. So something that I was a little shocked by with the way the battle goes here, and what ultimately pushes Iroha to want to get involved, is the fact that at no point does Komugi really get upset or, like, overly hurt at any point in time. Like, I feel like a lot of the stress of the debuts usually is that all the other cures get defeated, and whoever is about to be a new cure kind of steps in and helps out in, like, the 11th hour. But Komugi is relatively, like, on beat. She's just not doing well in the battle. She's not, like, succeeding, but at the same time, she's not getting overly injured or anything. I thought that was an interesting detail, but I think it works for kind of the lightheartedness that we're seeing, like, the goofy, lighthearted energy in this show. It's not supposed to be dramatic in terms of, like, the fighting. The drama seems to really be the emotional animal part, which honestly is so taxing that fair game that you're not going hard there. And this is kind of where things start to really get tied together for her debut that have really built up over the course of the episode. She goes back to that flashback that she had, which is paralleling perfectly with Komugi in the first episode, who's like, when Iroha was like, oh, you stay here and I go. And it really upset her and motivated her to intervene in the first episode. We see this with Iroha, where she's like, watching Komugi be hurt is one of the most painful things that I've seen, and wanting to help just like naturally comes from this moment. And then we get like a couple rapid fire shots of like Iroha and Komugi. We see the very beginning of their relationships where things are not going well, which I think is very interesting, is that like it started with them like Komugi not quite warming up, not having like maybe like had trust issues or whatever, being astray. And we see like her getting a little bit brighter and Iroha not really being able to handle her bright energy, but like slowly get a little bit more of a hold on it. The rough night that turn into warm nights. All culminating in confirmation that we kind of had the first episode, that the Mirror Stone is very relevant to the Cures getting their powers, accumulating into Iroha getting her pact. And for the transformation, they just go so hard. I know these transformations are much more on the shorter side, and there's a lot of blink and you miss it moments, but wow, these are so good. Like, I don't feel like there's any moment of rest in this. There's always like some very strong motion happening. I also think her hair is very fun. Like, she has a very unique hairstyle, very unique, like long in the front, short in the back, and it's fun to see how they play with it in the animation. Just every shot's so cool. I still love the animals in the background. I love that they went with the purple, like purples and blues and cooler tones for this. It works very well, especially matching Komugi's in the last one. And just like look at the energy. Look how clean it is. The 3, the 2. And the one. Just every shot is so pretty. I love the bow frame here. Especially this moment. Everybody loves this moment because they're like, oh my god, her having the long hair just looks so good. This frame and the frame around her perfectly hits with the bow at the top of her head with the, like, you can see the crown a little bit in the back, but like the bow and the star really look right here like they're accessories. It's just mwah, so pretty. So pretty. I think this is one of those times where, like, I normally love braids. I do like the, like, I'm with the rest of the long hair fans club where we're like, oh, the braids kind of nerf it. But I'm gonna get used to it. The braids are cute. I think she looks better with the braids. It gives her a bit more of a fun style, especially since there are going to be other characters that have more of the diva, more of the drama. They're more to be the long-haired characters. So, we keep it fun, we keep it cute. And then each just like impact of every accessory, every bow. So nice. Also, we have the very, like, I had to really come in for these screenshots for the crown slash sort of like the little, I almost call it like a detective hat, which I feel like kind of matches her a bit. Overall, the sequence of the crown turning into the hat is cute. Very adorable. I love the impact. I love the a million uses of particle effects here. I also like in her transformation, she does this little like hand together sign, which what I forgot to mention earlier was that both her and Satoru talk about their dreams, and I think that's one of the biggest parallels we have in here is that her dream is to befriend and get to know all the animals, with Satoru's being he wants to learn and have all the knowledge about animals around the world, as well as like find like extinct animals and whatnot. So I think with her being friendly and her having this hand together, just like it's all culminating into this idea that she wants to be there for all animals and wants to love all animals and be friends with them. And it works perfectly for her character. At first, when I saw Friendy was her name, I was like chicken tendy? But now I feel like Friendy makes so much sense. I feel like it really works for her. It's perfect. It's such a beautiful transformation. It's just also just like constant flow, constant energy. Her hair is just whipping around here. There's just so much motion. And I believe this is also done by the same artist that did Selene's transformation from Star Twinkle, which you feel that just kind of like wavy motion that's there. It just constantly feels like a flag is waving. The way the animation is done, and I love it. You feel like it just feels kind of upbeat. You kind of just feel like, yeah, we're going. And this is me. Wonderful is me. Eyes shining, Kira. I loved it. It was so beautiful. Best transformation. And I adore that we, again, having that such a good job at making sure we remember that Komugi's a dog. We have Friendy be like, heal. And Wonderful's like, I'm down. I'm a good girl. treat. And then something that happened earlier in the episode was Iroha being like, I can't, like what we saw, Iroha was like, I can't keep up with these animals, they're too fast, I feel like I can't get with them. So while I am mildly sad that we didn't get a jump here, I do like that it's a run. I think this is also done by the same artist that did the run sequence for Cure Custard's debut. But again, having the foreshadowing earlier, being like, I can't keep up with the animals, and her being like, no, I'm gonna keep up, I'm gonna run, and she gets the power as a Cure. She's able to keep up with Cure Wonderful. It's adorable. I love the parallels. It just really kind of puts a nice bow on the story that they're telling this episode. Also, the other reason why I'm not too upset that we're not getting the jump, we did get it last season, but there is the potential. There is a certain animal that is known for having some wild jumps and some great feats, and that would be cats. So, you know, we'll save that jump. We'll save that jump for maybe, like, I'm just saying, we could save that. We could save that. And then we move into the hug where we get this really good speech. Like, I feel like the speech for Komugi or Cure Wonderful, the previous episode, she was like, don't be like, animals need love. We gotta not be bad. And like had her hug moment that felt very like this would come from the perspective of a dog. But we have this girl be like the importance of taking care of pets, like the I love animals, all of that culminating into this beautiful speech, which is how she ultimately connects with our Garu Garu ostrich. And it really, really works, and we have this cute little hug. I also like that there's, like, for a split second, Komugi, like, bites the ostrich wing so it doesn't smack Friendy. And again, just, like, moments where we see, like, the dog energy versus Friendy's energy. Like, it's so well for each of the characters. They really feel like the owner and the pet, and they did such a phenomenal job. They did not cut corners at all with the way that they're depicting these two. And we ultimately have the ostrich come back, and we kind of have that same sequence that we did with Mei Mei, where the ostrich is like, sigh, I'm so tired, and then Mei Mei's like, let's go to the Nico garden, and everything wraps up pretty well. I also wanted to put out just a side note for Wonderful and Friendy and them getting along. I feel like this is the first season in either a while, or maybe ever, where we've had the two main characters, these individuals who've known each other since childhood, who immediately have really good synergy together. Because I feel like the last time we maybe had childhood friends was Sweet. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. For our duos, at least. I know we had childhood friends in, like, Doki Doki. But the synergy between the two is so on point this episode. And I think will be so interesting moving forward, because especially the formula for the past few seasons for our specifically duos has been to have like a bit of a fight in the beginning. Even with the last season, there was a bit of conflict between Sky and Prism in one of the first few episodes. But it feels like we may not go that direction this time, just because the two of them seem to automatically already kind of get along. They already seem to be a little bit more on the same page, and they have that just like... And they just have this bond that's already very present. And it's nice to have that. I think it gives us room to do a lot of other things. I also love Mei Mei. Mei Mei also given us an expression being like, girl, you have a wonderful pact. You're free to go. You know what? You know, I was mad before that you knew. I'm over that. We're good. Especially after Mei Mei was like, calm down. Calm down. And Mei Mei was like, I'm not keeping my cool though. Not me. Not me. I also love that these episodes immediately lead into each other. Like, there is no break between episode 1 to 2, and it looks like there's not going to be a break between episode 2 to 3. I don't think that's going to be forever. I think that's just going to be for a couple of our introductory episodes, but I do like that we've just kind of kept up the momentum, and it's very much kind of seamlessly moved to one episode to the other. I like that. Just a small detail. And that's about it for everything I have for episode 2. I love the momentum. I love the uniqueness. They're doing a lot of things that I think I normally would not love, like deviations from the franchise that would not normally be my thing. But given the way that they've utilized the fact that there's animal themes, we're fighting animals, the context for the characters, any of the deviations I think have had really good justifications for doing something that's a little bit out of not what we've normally done before. Which I think is good, because a lot of last season did deviations that I really liked. I think the things that were different were fantastic, like with having an adult cure, having a boy cure, and so on and so on. And this season's done deviations that I don't like, but again, I think they've done a really good job of having a good excuse for doing something that I normally would not be okay with. I'm really enjoying Wonderful Precure. I'm excited to see more, and I'm also excited to see a lot of payoff for some of the setup that we've really made. And until next time,